Welcome to 411 Now. If you are new here and stopping in to check out this video for the very first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Will Finley, and I am the independent crime journalist here on this channel, 411 Now, and I'd like to welcome you. I hope you, if you like this content, will stick around and click that subscribe button. To all my returning viewers, subscribers, and supporters out there, thank you again for stopping in to check out this video. I wouldn't and couldn't do it without you. Each and every day, the struggle for the truth we all go through together, and together we triumph. Thank you again to each and every one of you. Thank you. Today, we are taking a look at Josh Duggar and the Duggar family. This is part 2 of the 2-part series on Josh Duggar, the child predator. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper look in this video, on the family, the religious upbringing that Josh Duggar has, so richly had, the protective nature of the church and the organization that has surrounded him his entire life. So first, let's start off with the Duggar family. Each and every member of the Duggar family, all 19 kids and counting, along with Jim Bob, that is his real name, Jim Bob Duggar, and Michelle Duggar, the mother. Every single one of them are members of the IBLP, which stands for the Independent Basic Life Principles Church. And they are a Christian fundamentalist group that is kind of a little bit different from what you may be thinking of when you hear the term or someone say Christian fundamentalist. Not only are they a Christian fundamentalist group, but they also have a wing of their actual church that is a paramilitary group. They like to closely align themselves with that faction of their actual church and organization with those who call themselves 3%ers. But most of the 3%er community that is out there wants absolutely nothing to do with these people. They are considered the fringe of society that nobody else wants. They may have the same Christian values, but they don't want them around, because they know they're going to bring unwanted attention to their actual group or gathering. So much so that the IBLP, along with the ATI, those are the initials for the two individual groups, the ATI and the IBLP are listed by the Department of Justice and the Homeland Security as religious cult organizations. Yeah. This is the type of religious fundamentalism that Josh Duggar would grow up in. But back to Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar. Growing up, they always suffered, and greatly financially. They didn't have 2 nickels to rub together for most of the early part of their adult lives. But then things, fortune started to change for them. They started to be able to afford a little bit more here and a little bit there, more there, because of the help with the Christian fundamentalist groups that they had been following, where everybody worked together in kind of not a commune, but in a community aspect to lift up every member of the church. So they started to have children. Oh, did they not stop? They'd be on child 35 by now if they could. But 19 kids is where they stopped. So Jim Bob and Michelle moved around quite a bit in the earlier years of their lives until they finally settled on where they would eventually put down roots and raise their family from. Josh Duggar, one of the 19 kids. Little known facts about Josh Duggar are that when Josh Duggar was younger, he was very well connected and volunteered an awful lot with the Young Republican Party, and actually helped, hand out flyers, did anything he could, even before he was even eligible to have a part-time job in the state. He was out there doing whatever volunteer work he could with the Young Republican Party. Later on, Josh would even become, when he was an adult, young adult, he would even become a type of lobbyist, if you would call it that. But he wasn't really necessarily paid for the work he did in trying to gain tax protection, or protection under legal statuses for their group, the IBLP, and their family members. But he was paid and helped out financially through a very rich benefactor who was very well connected within Washington, D.C., the Senate and Congress. This individual was more of a retired politician lobbyist, but was kicking money back down to Josh Duggar to keep him enrolled and keep him active in the Young Republican Party. As you may have guessed at this point already, Josh Duggar, along with his 18 siblings, all participated in the TV reality show on the TLC network called 19 Kids and Counting, along with their mother, their father, and a couple of extended family members. And it would pop in every now and then in an episode. But mainly the reality show focused on Jim Bob Duggar, Michelle Duggar, and their 19 children. Well before Josh Duggar ever committed a single sexual assault or sexual molestation against his sisters or their friends, before any of that ever started, there were signs that there was something that was going on with Josh Duggar. And on the TLC program, if you watch to a certain point, throughout the entire series run before it was eventually canceled, you can see that the casting and film and directors are starting to kind of shy away from focusing on the young, charismatic individual, Josh Duggar himself, and focusing more on other family members. Even if he was in the house at that particular time, and he was interacting with them, they just didn't film him because they knew, the family knew, there was something going on with Josh Duggar. So much so, Jim Bob Duggar actually would pray for his son. And this was all before the molestation ever occurred. TLC Network never officially made a single announcement about Josh Duggar and the molestation charges and accusations of the molestation in and around the time that it happened or after, even all the way up until the end of the actual filming of the family, the Duggars, 19 kids and counting. Even after it ended, they still did not make an official statement about what they knew, what they saw, or anything. Now, keep in mind, Josh Duggar is a teenager and had molested 4 of his sisters who were co-stars on this program, along with Josh Duggar convinced one of his youngest sisters to bring over her 7-year-old best friend. And yes, Josh Duggar molested this friend of the family as well. But TLC just wouldn't say anything. It was as if all of it was happening and all of it, anything that did happen, they didn't want to know about. They just looked the other way. Once Josh Duggar was old enough to the point where, he was independent and had, gotten married and started producing his own offspring itself, his first child, before his second child was ever born. TLC Network filmed at least 4 episodes of a possible spin-off series television show that would have surrounded, and gone around and focused on Josh Duggar, his wife, and his now ever, growing and expanding family. At least 4 episodes. According to 2 insiders with TLC Network with information on the actual filming process, they believe that the episodes and the footages they actually shot would have been enough for as many as 6 spin-off episodes. The type of child pornography that Josh Duggar possessed at the time of his arrest and the subsequent investigation of all his electronic devices from his home, from his parents' home, from the car dealership, his cell phones, everything. And when I say cell phones, I mean 3 cell phones total, 4 laptops, 2 desktops, and an actual storage, external hard drive device. Once they actually went through each and everything that he had and searched every file, every partition of every hard drive, he didn't just have still photos. Josh Duggar had what the FBI considers some of the worst and some of the most disgusting graphic nature of content that they'd ever seen. We're not talking about a couple of photos, maybe one video, or a couple of videos and a couple of photos. Josh Duggar possessed well in excess of 14 gigs of video and actual film, and still photos of extreme graphic pornography involving children as young as 7 years of age. The age group for every one of the victims in all of the pornography, the oldest age of any of the possible children involved in that pornography was 11. Most of them were 7 years of age. This is the type of pornography that Josh Duggar enjoys. And it goes right along with his molestation. He molested his sisters at the age of 7, and they're in around the age of 7 to 11. The friend of the family that he convinced his sister to invite over for a sleepover so he could molest was 7 years of age. It all goes to a pattern here. The pornography that he possessed before then was that of younger women, that his wife had installed the program on his computer so she could catch him if he was going to cheat or if he was going to download pornography again. According to the lead investigator with the FBI, who was ahead of the search and the arrest for Josh Duggar and the actual case that was filed against him, in his actual statement that he gave to the actual court, I would like to read now for you. In my 30 plus years of investigating these types of cases, I have come across all kinds of the worst and the sickest content that an adult will do to a child. In my 30 plus years of investigation, I have never seen the type of pornography that we have just uncovered from Josh Duggar's external and internal devices, end quote. As somebody who's a seasoned veteran investigating this type of, crime, child pornography, was so disgusted. What else can you say about the content that he had? This wasn't the first time he had been caught. He's admitted that he molested his sisters and the family friend, who was 7 years of age. He admitted to having a problem with pornography. Yet his wife stayed with him even after he was caught cheating. And he admitted to the pornography and the child molestation. She still raised 2 daughters to the point where they were right where Daddy wanted them the most. Did he victimize his own children? We don't know yet. If we're ever going to find out, it isn't going to be from his wife or Jim Bob Duggar, who conveniently, when placed on the witness stand on the first day of trial, got amnesia and couldn't recall any of the details around how 4 of his own daughters were molested by his own son. He couldn't recall any of the details. I remember every single detail. For the one time my daughter was assaulted by another child. That was 25 years ago. I remember every detail about that. Now, Now 4 of your own daughters have been molested by your own child, by your son, your golden child, but you can't recall even the smallest detail around it. Selective amnesia is what they call that, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you may be shocked to understand today. This is an exact quote from the Christian Values, the book that is given out to each boy and girl at the tender age of 10. It says, and this is a quote, "Bodies don't belong to us. They belong to God. And so in that realm of all possibilities, anything that happens is God's will." End quote. Page 3, second paragraph, right next to the picture of the little girl with a lamb. This is what it says. Again, page 3, second paragraph, next to the picture of a little girl in a white and blue dress with her arm around a lamb. Bodies don't belong to us. They belong to God. And so in that realm of all possibilities, anything that happens is God's will. Why would you need to put that in a Christian curriculum? Unless you're setting up a defense immediately for anyone who does commit an act against children. The IBLP, again, is the Institute for Basic Life Principles. Was founded in co-part by Bill Gothard, who, incidentally, has now been removed from the church only after several victims of his own came forward, and one refused to recant her statement that she was abused by Bill and that Bill had been abusing her for years. When she refused to recant it and wanted to go forward to press charges, that is when they said, "Bill, you need to step aside from the actual church and from the Christian teachings here." But for years, everybody within the church knew about Bill. For years, everybody knew about Josh after he molested his sisters. The day that the church learned about Josh Duggar and his molestation of his sisters, they prayed for him. Why was Josh Duggar never prosecuted for the molestation of his sisters and the family friend? Because they believed that they could cure Josh with faith-based healing. They sent him off to a friend of his dad's, Jim Bob Duggar, sent him off to a friend of his to get what they called severe Christian fundamental evaluation and training. In a nutshell, it taught Josh, if you're going to do this in the future, make damn sure, that you cover all your tracks so nobody can ever catch you. That's all it ever did. He did a little bit of yard work. He did some light cleanup around construction sites and did a lot of Bible study. That was his sentence for destroying 5 lives. He would have kept on, destroying more and more lives if his parents had more and more little girls. So that is more about Josh Duggar, the background behind Josh and the family. Again, I reached out to each and every one of these religious fundamentalist groups that has been tied to the Josh Duggar's family, and none of them would reply back to me or to my friend who is listed as certified and has all the credentials as a reporter with the Associated Press. None of them will return our calls. No one responded back via email, text message, nothing except for the IBLP. They were the only ones who responded back, and that's not much of a reply. So thank you, everybody, for joining me today for part 2 of this series, Josh Duggar, the Child Predator. You stay safe out there.